I'm Brandon Brown. I'm the transition expert with Life Cycle Transitions. We are a transition company that works with clients that are in transition. Two of my most recent transition clients, Carol Grossinger and Frank Grossinger, contacted us because they were experiencing some difficulty in their home. Now, the interesting story about the two of you is we have been friends, and I've been a transition provider for you quite some time.
Yes, you have. Yes, yeah.
What happened 6 years ago?
Well, we're having some problems in the house,
Mhm.
and they had to be cleaned up.
Okay.
You did the rugs and the painting and the new kitchen. It was great, and the new bathroom also.
Yeah. So 6 years ago, you contacted us because Frank was in the hospital and looking to get discharged from rehab. Then you were staying in the home, and the home was in some unlivable conditions. You had been in this property at that point, maybe 10, 15 years?
About 25 years.
25 years.
Yes.
So at that point, you've been in a home 25 years and 6 years ago, and you were in a rehab, Frank. And Carol, you were staying in the home.
Yes, it was.
You and Pete, of course.
Yeah.
And Pete's your cat.
Yes, he is.
And Frank was looking to get discharged and ran into a situation that many of our clients go through, where being discharged brings about a number of issues. One, you have a discharge planner, a social worker, case manager, who's involved in that transition from the skilled nursing home. Most of the time, these living conditions can go unattended for many, many years. But what happens is there's a trip, there's a fall, there's an injury, and then now you have the company of an outside entity that usually requires the attention, obviously, of an emergency medical services. You get the police department involved, you get a paramedic or concerned neighbor, but the top three of those people, being the EMSs, the paramedics, and the police officers, are what we refer to as mandatory reporters. And when they identify a living environment that they consider to be problematic or dangerous and harmful to human safety, they are required to report to social services. And in your case, because you're up in age at that point, you qualify for them having to notify Elder Services. Elder Services was in turn notified while Frank was in the skilled nursing home, and when he was in the skilled nursing home, they then referred you to Life Cycle and told you about our services and an effort to get the home transition properly so that you can go home safely. 6 years ago, I went out to the home, noticed that there was a big issue. We rate properties and living conditions health-wise from a scale to 1 to 3. 1 meaning that there is some concerns, obviously trip hazards, fire hazards. 2 meaning that there's those trip hazards and fire hazards, but there's also egresses that are being blocked and a number of other concerns. 3 is usually the worst or the highest level of concern. 3 is usually awarded to situations that unfortunately end up in condemnation, where because of the condition of the home, the city or the state or the town that you will live in would deem the property as being unoccupiable, meaning that for human occupancy, meaning that this environment poses a number of concerns for your health from a respiratory standpoint, sanitary condition, fire hazards, trip hazards, electrical, you name it. I deemed the living condition 6 years ago as a level 3, in which we came in with a plan. You were all aboard. We came in, we dealt with the living conditions from the standpoint of hoarding, where we dealt with the packing, the sorting, the cleaning, the organizing in the hallway. And we also addressed the renovations and repairs. The kitchen needed to be redone. We redid the kitchen, gave you guys new cabinets, new floors, ceramic tiles, new carpeting. And because of Frank's limited mobility, we felt that it would be wise if the goal at that time was to age in place to make the property more adaptive accessible. We had a walk-in tub, and then we had grab bars installed. We did everything we can to make the home aging in place suitable. But we also knew in the back of our minds that based on some of the concerns from a maintenance standpoint, but also a maintenance of yourselves, that you guys are going to require some additional care. So one of my recommendations 6 years ago was to consider, before we did the entire construction and renovation, is to consider going into an assisted living where if you need home care, you need meals, you need meal planning, you need errands. But if you needed someone to keep up with the cleaning of the property, we did everything we could. So at that time, the two of you weren't ready to do that, right?
That's true. 6 years ago, yeah. Six
Right.
years ago we weren't. We just
Yeah,
wanted
we
to
were
stay
doing-
where we were.
What was the rationale 6 years ago of not wanting to downsize?
We
Just
just wanted to stay
Didn't
where
want
we
to do
were.
it. We'd only been
Yeah.
there for,
We just wanted to stay where we were.
Mhm.
yeah.
We didn't want to leave at that point.
Yeah, we moved in there in 1989.
1989, yeah.
And then we got a note in 1982 said we're raising the rent and we're gonna sell it and we're gonna sell it empty. And I said, you're gonna sell it to me.
Mhm.
And on July 31st, I bought it.
Yeah, 2002 we bought the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in 2002, you decided to acquire the property. So
Right.
you had a lot of sentimental value, but a lot of independence associated with this home, and you wanted your freedom, but you also
Right.
wanted to, like a captain, to stay in the ship and ride it out, right?
Right.
Yes. We did.
What I notice in a lot of cases, in having done 891 of these transitions,
Mhm.
every client, as they get older, they want to stay put. They want to
course.
live in their home. They want to pass away in their home. The home means so much to you. I mean, your home tells you more about you than the other facet of your life.
Yes, it does.
It tells you
Yeah.
where you sleep, where you eat. It gives you a sense of an identity, sense of security, safety. And being in this home and staying in this home meant the big deal to you. So we didn't push the issue 6 years ago.
Right.
But what I did recommend is home care. I recommended if you're going to stay in the home, I strongly urge you to get services so that you can take out the trash, so you can do meal runs,
Yeah.
basic maintenance, cleaning, taking out the garbage, the whole 9 yards. But you didn't do that then, or at least you weren't ready to do it initially.
Yeah.
But then let's fast forward 6 years later.
We're ready now.
Well, what happened 6 years ago that made you give me a phone call again?
I was at dialysis all the time.
Mhm.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I had a heart attack in 2017, the Saturday before Halloween.
So you're in the home and you identified that, obviously because of your health, that there are some things that were starting to be neglected, right?
Right.
But Carol, you've always struggled with the hoarding.
Hmm.
And your hoarding in terms of what you accumulated was always food, right? You always kept the food in the pantry and things of that nature.
Oh, yeah. I had always kept the food in the pantry, right?
Yeah, because when we came back to the property this time around, six years later, there was a rat infestation, right? And the rats were attracted to the food.
Hmm.
We were called upon because you had a number of things going wrong. Frank, you were back in the hospital again. This time you were dealing with some other health issues. From there, you ended up at skilled rehab.
Yes, for a month.
3 weeks.
Okay.
3 weeks. So
Yeah.
under a month, you were in the skilled rehab.
Yeah.
Around that same time, you had an issue with the infestation of the rats. But this time, it wasn't just your unit that we were worried about. We were worried about your tenant, who had been a tenant for you for a number of years.
Since we bought the house.
Since you bought the property, and she was in a frenzy, as one would imagine, by having her home obviously being invaded by these rats that were eating through the hallway, eating through the walls, and eating through her furniture, and causing a lot of ruckus next door. At that point, you contacted me and you wanted me to come and see what I can do to help out. When I walked into the property, it didn't look like it looked 6 years ago when we left it. It looked worse. Much worse, which was heartbreaking because I know what went into turning that property around, and you're one of our flagship clients.
Hmm.
A lot of things that exhibited the hoarding traits that me and Carol had discussed 6 years ago, and those situations magnified times 100 when you look at the food spoilage and the amount of rats that were littered through the entire property. It was a major ecosystem for these rats to be able to survive in this environment, and they had been in this environment for a number of years. Very, very dangerous environment to live in, especially with your health being compromised and struggling the way you have been to stay healthy. And obviously for you, even with a person with a healthy immune system, rat droppings bring about a whole host of illnesses, from hantavirus to MRSA, can cause respiratory failure. There's so many different things that environment was a cesspool for, that had I known 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that it was going in that direction, I would have urged you to make some changes then before it got to the point that it got. We were faced with a situation at this point, and the situation was different than the situation before because your needs were changing. I think you were far more open-minded to alternative living than you may have been 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a number of other issues. We had a tenant that we had to deal with and we had to care for and come up with solutions with. And then we had other issues with the city that we were looking at as well. At that point, I recommended for you to transition out of the home, to downsize permanently, to look for an opportunity where your needs, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, can be cared for a lot more effectively than in the condition that you're currently living in. So was this something you were willing to do at this
We were
point?
willing to do it. Yes, we were ready.
Why were
First
you ready
time.
this time, you think?
I think just because of the age. I think it was just because I'm 75 and he's 77, and we just don't have what we used to have, the mobility that we used to have. Walking and going up and down the stairs, and we just wanted out. We just wanted to make things easier for the two of us as we're getting older.
And Carol never drove, and I can't drive right now. I expect to get back in that car pretty soon.
Independence meant a lot to you, Frank, as well as you.
Yes, it did, yeah. So we gave up quite a bit moving into assisted living, but it was something we had to do.
Yeah. I don't think you gave up much, to be honest. I think you're going to find that this living environment is going to give you a lot more freedom than maybe you had before.
Well, the thing is, where I didn't drive, it made it difficult because Frank took the bus to dialysis, and I was home pretty much so I didn't have a chance to go out like with normal people, go out do shopping or anything like that. I was pretty much stuck inside.
I'd take you out as soon as I got home.
Yeah, but I was pretty much stuck inside. I couldn't really do anything. So yeah, the freedom means a lot, and the more I thought about it and looked at different places, it just made sense. It made sense. And Plymouth is where my family is, my brothers. It made sense. I'm Frank's brothers in Pembroke. But it made sense. It made more sense than it has in many, many, many years.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, change often happens long before you know it occurs, and it's just up to us to accept, acknowledge, and address, which is our 3 philosophies of A's. In your case, wanting to stay in a home meant a lot to you, but watching and observing and monitoring your health and your limitations, it tells you a lot more about your personal situation that maybe a lot of people have a hard time to accept. I'm hearing Frank still getting on the train and getting on the bus and still trying to get to and from and live his life the way he wanted to live, even though getting in and out of that bus is a danger in and of its own. And trying to drive a vehicle and deciding that you don't have your license anymore, you need to surrender your license, is not something any of us will ever feel comfortable, will ever get used to wanting to do. And we're going to fight that every chance we get.
My license is good till 2023 now.
Good. Good. In a case like yours, we came to the realization that it was time to make some changes. Now, not the kind of changes that sound good, but the kind of changes that made good on a promise of a much more rewarding future.
That's what we were looking for.
So I looked at your entire situation, and what Life Cycle focuses on is 3 alternatives. If you're going to stay in the home, what does the home need to be, should be, and could be so that you can get the most out of it? So we're looking at sustainability. We gave the option A of aging in place and living in the home and making this home more livable for you the best we could over 6 years. It didn't work. It wasn't going to work. So we looked at option 2. And option 2 is, hey, you're going to leave the home. Let's put the house on the market and let's look at what the renovation and modification costs are going to be to get that together. In your case, we gave you the evaluation assessment and the repairs and all the things that needed to be addressed wasn't something that appeared to be desirable at that moment, right? What we offer is the Home Rescue Program, which is a program that's designed specifically for clients in your situation, where we look for private investors that can acquire the property in its current condition, full disclosure on what the condition of the home is and what's going on with it. And in your case, we'll also look for finding assisted living and independent living, an apartment, a condo, We'll deal with the packing, the sorting, the cleaning, and organizing to get you out of the home. We'll also move you into any location where you want to go and unpack you there. But in your case, because of the home being unlivable, there was no way to keep you in this house temporarily, or in this case, keep the
Yes.
tenant in the house temporarily. So we customized the transition plan where we got you out of the home, got you into a temporary living environment with both you and the tenant. And at that point, we looked to find a private buyer of the property, which we located in 3 to 5 days. And then we, at that point, had a plan to locate housing. And we searched high and low for independent assisted living environment that was suitable. And when we looked at independent, we looked at the needs and the requirements that you're going to need in order to be in this home. And we looked at assisted living. We decided assisted living collectively would be a better direction for you.
The better direction.
You know, and we worked rigorously. We worked for days to find the right place
A long time.
until we found the one that you liked, right?
Yes.
And we're here.
Yeah.
Today's your first day here. So
Yes, it is.
while this was going on, there was a number of other fires we needed to put out. So we secured the private buyer, and at the last moment, 3 days before the closing, we got some disappointing news. The buyer had unfortunately backed out of the purchase because the tenant that was currently there had made a big fuss about the living conditions, as it was questionable living environment. And as a result, the town and the city condemned the home, which is something that we were trying to rush against and avoid doing by getting the home sold beforehand. But that didn't stop us. We didn't let that stop us a bit. What we did is we pushed forward, and Life Cycle was able to honor our contractual agreement, which is if we don't have a buyer in time to purchase the property, that the company itself would acquire the property to guarantee that the closing happens as pre-planned. So 2 days before the closing, we shuffled with our lawyers and our attorneys to make the necessary adjustments so that we can get the property acquired. But that wasn't even enough to put out all the fires, right? Because we got other bad news while this was happening, right?
Yes, we did.
What was the bad news that we got?
A tenant was suing us, taking us to housing court. Yeah.
Exactly. We received notification from you because you had gotten a notification from her legal department that she was then taking you to court for damages of her property that was associated with the rat infestation.
Yeah.
So we went in hyperdrive, and we had literally 48 hours before the court date that we had our lawyers, our legal team, drum up some contracts. We immediately got in contact with the tenant, and we were able to reach an agreement to avoid having you go into court and go through this humiliating experience all over again. We dealt with getting you out of the home and the tenant out of the home. We actually helped the tenant get housing. We got you into temporary living. We located a place to move into.
Yes, you
and
did.
assisted living. And we successfully got the property acquired and off your hands. And we managed to then settle the grievance, the legal dispute between you and the tenant. And all of this happened in a matter of 30 days.
You did quick.
So while this was going on, Frank, you had doctor's appointments and dialysis appointments to go to. Every 3 days a week, we were taking Frank to dialysis to make sure he made his dialysis appointments. In addition to that, we were making sure you were going to the store and going to get pharmacy.
Yes.
We covered a lot of bases. And now I'm happy to say that 30 days later, it's been a hard pull, and we had a lot of obstacles to overcome. But we safely managed to get you into the assisted living.
Yes.
So how does it feel to be here now?
It feels good to be down here in Plymouth and with my family and Frank's family, and we will get adjusted to what we have to do and everything. And it's just something that was necessary with our ages and everything. I just couldn't do it anymore up there. I was just tired of it. So I'm glad that we are down here and that we found a good place, a good home.
Oh, wonderful. So Frank, what do you feel about the transition? How do you feel everything went?
It went as well as it could possibly go. I mean, you guys were working hard. You were meeting opposition. And That's about it.
It was a challenge,
Yeah.
and it was filled with a lot of obstacles, but we overcame it. That's what we do. And we've been
Yeah.
doing this for 11 years, and we couldn't have done our job if we didn't have such great clients.
Hmm.
How would you say the transition went, Carol?
I would say the transition went well. I said there were a lot of good people working for you,
Mhm.
and as you said, you had some obstacles to overcome. But I would say that we are where we belong.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we are, and we thank you.
Thank you.
We thank you very much.
So would you
Yeah.
say, Frank, did everything get done? Did we do exactly what we promised?
Yes. You got rid of the house.
Yeah.
You know, and when something didn't go as planned, you changed it.
We changed it. We put out fires. Whenever
Yes.
something happened, I think we did the best we could at overcoming it and figuring out a solution to the problem. It wasn't always a good one. It wasn't always the best one, but it was the
not
one.
easy.
It was the one that we needed to come up with at that moment. And as a result, you're here,
Mhm.
you're safe,
Yes, that's what we wanted.
and you appear to be healthier. The environment that you guys were living in was definitely toxic.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. And I didn't really know what to do about it. I did the best I could, but I didn't really know what I could do about it. And when I called you, you had some ideas, and I said, we'll go with you, whatever you decide. Because for his health and my health, we just couldn't do it anymore. Just couldn't live there anymore.
This transition for you is going to be perfect now.
Mm-hmm.
I will caution you. You're living in a community environment. There are
Mhm.
other tenants in this environment.
Yes.
And there are rules and regulations in
Oh, absolutely.
all of these environments. Now,
Yeah.
I know personally, Carol, you struggled with the hoarding.
Yeah.
And even in a number of things here was also very concerning because we have to be very mindful of the fact that we're in a small
That's
living
mostly
environment.
clothing. I kind of consolidated. That's our clothing.
I totally understand, Carol, but this is a smaller living environment. It's going to require more creativeness when it comes to how many and how much you can bring in here.
Okay.
And they will do routine checks in the property. So they're looking to make sure that the place is in good condition and that all the services are functioning properly. So you're not going to have 6 years to watch a situation deteriorate.
Yeah.
As you know, Life Cycle does have a home care division. We're going to be here to make sure that Frank gets to and from dialysis, and that if you need any errands or any trips or anything, that we can help
I
you.
will.
This is going to require a lot of discipline, a lot of
Mhm.
sacrifice and commitment to keep things in order.
Mm-hmm.
But we're here, and we're going to help you police some of those tendencies that got you into this trouble, not once but twice.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to keep those things down to a minimum. I thank you for giving us the opportunity to help you.
You're welcome. I knew that you would work with us and you would get us through. And
She said, we need Brandon again.
we need Brandon again. Yes. Yes, I did.
From
Yeah.
here on out, it's going to be a non-stop journey to take good care of your health, make sure you guys are eating properly, making sure you go to your doctors and your dialysis appointments,
Mm-hmm.
but also keeping this place intact.
Intact.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And we're going
Yeah.
to be here with you on all fronts, making sure you go to your doctor's appointments, making sure the place is clean and organized, and we will be the first one because we transitioned you into this environment to get those notifications when they feel that something's not necessarily working properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
by that, I'm referring to making sure that the trash and everything is taken out and making sure that the place is clean and that
Yeah.
you care for properly. That's going to be our obligation and responsibility to make sure that you don't go through this again, to keep
Mhm.
things in order.
I don't believe we will. I don't think that will happen again.
I will say it again. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to
Mhm.
allow us to come in and do this interview. It means a lot to us, but it
Mhm.
also means a lot to people who are in the same situation that are dealing with health
And-
issues and
yeah.
that are having some issues with their living environment, but they're too ashamed, too embarrassed
And it
to
was
make
part
phone
of it
calls.
too.
Because the alternative to not doing what you courageously did is to stay in these environments, close the doors, close the blinds, and unfortunately
Pretty
pass
much
away.
that's what I did.
And
Yeah.
pass
pretty
away
much.
in these environments.
Yeah.
Because the environment that you were living in was, you were headed down some dark days.
Yes.
And I'm glad we made
Yeah.
a different direction this time. So if you're tuning into this interview and you just saw what we just discussed about our clients, the Grossingers, and you're dealing with a transition at home and maybe you're afraid, maybe you're concerned and you don't know who to call. Maybe you're coming from a skilled nursing home or a rehab, or maybe you received a notification from the town or city that you live in, or a neighbor that told you that your living environment is challenged and detrimental to your health, give Life Cycle a call. We handle everything from transitioning you from the rehab back to a home, getting the home together with adaptive accessibility components. Maybe your bathroom's on the second floor, maybe it should be on the first floor. We can come up with an entire game plan from renovations to repairs to adaptive accessibility components, installing grab bars. Or if you decided that the house is no longer suitable for you to age in place and you want to just simply downsize, but you don't know what downsizing is going to look like and you need assistance with exploring options such as assisted or independent living, a smaller condo or home, give us a call. We'll evaluate a number of different options. We'll come out and do a transition assessment evaluation. And in that evaluation assessment, we'll look at everything from the property to getting the home on the market, dealing with market ready analysis to looking at assisted and independent livings and coming up with an entire plan from A to Z. You can reach us at lifecycletransitions.com or you can contact us at 877-273-7810. Thank you so much, and please tune in to our next interview with our next client.